Newsfirst at 9. Headlines.
A very good evening and welcome to Weekend Primetime News. I'm Katrina Chang from the Newsfirst Center here in Colombo. Let's take a look at what's making headlines this evening. Malaysian airline flight carrying 239 people on board disappears in Vietnamese airspace. Investigations underway to arrest the chief suspect who imported a consignment of drugs worth 360 million rupees from Pakistan. Sri Lanka permanent representative to the UN in Geneva charges that UNHRC resolution on Sri Lanka violates Sri Lanka's constitution. Indigenous youth enter the battle to be crowned a super fighter. 15,000 acres of paddy land in Muragal affected due to the drought. Let's now cross over the main news studios where details of these stories and more waits us.
Well, thank you very much, Katrina. A very good evening to you. Welcome to your Primetime News Bulletin. Well, first of all, the final of the Asia Cup is currently being worked off in Bangladesh, with Sri Lanka requiring another 17 runs to clinch victory with 6 wickets in hand. Well, Sports First will have the details of the Asia Cup, but before that, let's have a look at a developing story for tonight. Search and rescue crews are scrambling to locate Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 with 239 passengers and crew after it vanished from radar screens during the early hours of today. Vietnamese state-run media earlier reported, citing the country's navy, that flight MH370 from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing crashed into its waters. However, Malaysian Airlines has not yet confirmed that the flight has crashed and instead notes that it had disappeared. A few hours ago, the Vietnamese Air Force reported that 2 of its jets had spotted oil slicks in the ocean suspected to be from the missing plane. Malaysian Airlines also released a complete list of passengers and crew aboard missing flight MH370. Now, the Newsfirst International Desk has been following the story closely, and Katrina Chang now joins us from Studio 2 with a comprehensive update.
Flight MH370 was to travel 2,300 miles to reach its destination, Beijing, from Kuala Lumpur. According to reports, Malaysian airline flight MH370 lost contact with ground control nearly 2 hours after takeoff. The last known location of the flight MH370 is believed to be right here.
The Vietnamese Navy says that flight MH370 crashed 153 miles south of Pokok Island. More than 10 hours after last contact with flight MH370, several countries including China, Malaysia and Vietnam have launched search and rescue operations by sea and air in the area, believed to be where the plane went missing. Group Chief Executive Officer of Malaysian Airlines, Ahmad Johar Yahya, speaking to the media earlier, said that the airlines had taken measures to inform the next of kin of all passengers.
MH370 was operated on Boeing 777, the 777-200 aircraft. It departed Kuala Lumpur at 12:41 a.m. this morning, bound for Beijing. The aircraft was scheduled to land at Beijing International Airport at 6:30 a.m. Beijing local time. We are working with authorities who have activated the search and rescue team to locate the aircraft. Our team is currently calling the next of kin of passengers and crews. The flight was piloted by Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, a Malaysian, age 53. He has a total flying hours of about 18,365 hours. Joined Malaysia Airlines in 1981. The first officer was Farid Abdul Ahmed, a Malaysian, age 27, a total flying hours of 2,763. He joined Malaysia Airlines in 2007. And our thoughts and prayers are with all affected passengers and crew and their family members.
The Boeing 777-200ER was en route to Beijing from Kuala Lumpur before it went missing. China's state-run news agency Xinhua reported the plane was lost in airspace controlled by Vietnam and never made contact with Chinese air traffic controllers. There have been no reports of a plane crashing into Chinese waters, and China is assisting in its search for the missing plane. Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak told reporters that no sign had yet been found of a missing Malaysian Airlines plane that vanished from radar screens over the South China Sea with 227 passengers and 12 crew on board.
The flight was carrying a total of 239 passengers and crew, comprising of 227 passengers, including 2 infants, and 12 crew members. There were 14 nationalities amongst the passengers. Just to go through the detail, China, we have 152 plus 1 infant. From Malaysia, 38. Indonesia, 12. Australia, 7. France, 3. United States of America, USA, 3 packs plus 1 infant. New Zealand, 2. Ukraine, 2. Canada, 2. Russia, 1. Italy, 1. Taiwan, 1. Netherlands, 1. And Austria, 1. This flight was also a code-share flight with China Southern Airlines.
Flight MH370 that disappeared off the radar this morning was a Boeing 777 aircraft, which is regarded as one of the safest passenger aircrafts currently in operation. Malaysian Airlines added the 777 to its fleet 7 years ago. What exactly is the Boeing 777, and has it faced any similar issues in the past?
The twin-engine jet was first launched in June 1995, and since then Boeing has delivered more than 1,000 777 aircrafts. Malaysia Airlines has 15 Boeing 777-200ER jets in its fleet of about 100 planes. The aircraft is popular among airlines because it is capable of flying extremely long distances thanks to 2 giant engines, and has helped connect cities at the far ends of the globe with flights as long as 16 hours. With a seating capacity of between 300 and 380, it is no surprise that over 60 airlines around the world use this aircraft. Its safety record is impressive. The first fatal crash in its 19-year history only came in July 2013, when an Asiana Airlines jet landed short of the runway in San Francisco. 3 of the 307 people aboard died, one of whom was hit by an emergency truck after surviving the crash. Prior to this incident, a British Airways 777 crash landed short of the runway at London's Heathrow Airport in January 2008. However, Malaysia Airlines did have an incident in August 2005 with a 777 flying from Perth to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. While flying 11,580 meters above the Indian Ocean, the plane's software incorrectly measured speed and acceleration, causing the plane to suddenly shoot up 915 meters. The pilot disengaged the autopilot and descended and landed safely back in Perth.
777-200ER is an aircraft that was manufactured by Boeing in 1995, and it was a prone aeroplane in the world today. Usually the procedure that any organization will follow when an aircraft is missing is that they will have to locate the aircraft first. The aircraft is usually located by the ELT, which is the emergency locator transmitter, which is fixed to the aircraft, and also there will be a search and rescue operation team which will follow up to search the aircraft, which has been followed at the moment, and they are searching for the aeroplane at the moment.
Now in local stories, no arrests have been made in connection to the discovery of a stock of drugs worth 360 million rupees. The drugs had been smuggled in from Pakistan. Superintendent of the Revenue Task Force of the Customs Department, Parakrama Basnaika, said that further investigations into the incident have been handed over to the Police Anti-Narcotics Bureau.
The consignment brown sugar was smuggled into the country hidden inside bowls. 36 kilograms of heroin was discovered on Thursday hidden inside 2 wooden boxes in a cargo container at the Orogodawatta container terminal.
මද්‍රව්‍ය තොග පිළිබඳ සම්පූර්ණ රේගු පරීක්ෂණය ඊයේ මධ්‍යම රාත්‍රියේදී අවසන් වුණා. එම මද්‍රව්‍ය තොගේ ප්‍රාසන්ත කරන ලැබුවා. ඊට අමතරව එහිදී රේගුව මගින්
The investigation conducted by the Customs Department on the haul of drugs was completed at midnight yesterday. The drugs were confiscated. Moreover, the 2 wharf managers, wharf clerks and 2 shipping agents who were detained by Customs were released. Orders were given to hand over further investigations to the Police Anti-Narcotics Bureau. Thereby, Sri Lanka Customs took measures to hand over the confiscated haul of drugs to the Police Anti-Narcotics Bureau. The raid was initially conducted via information that came through international sources.
මෙම වැටලීමේදී අපිට මූලික වුණේ ජාත්‍යන්තර වශයෙන් අපිට ලැබුණු තොරතුරක්.
ඊයේ අතරගොඩගත් heroin kilogram
The investigation over the seizure of heroin weighing 36 kilograms has been handed over to the Police Anti-Narcotics Bureau. The chief suspect, who is a Pakistani national, has been identified. Furthermore, an investigation is underway to ascertain his accomplices in the country.
මද්‍රව්‍ය ජාලේ කුමන පුද්ගලයින්ද මේ සඳහා සම්බන්ධ කියන කාරණය ගැන දැනට විමර්ශනයක් සිදු කරමින් පවතිනවා.
Large hauls of drugs were seized by customs on previous occasions as well. In August last year, consignment of heroin worth 1.5 billion rupees, weighing 200 kilograms, was discovered concealed within grease tins. Another seizure was made by customs when a consignment of heroin was smuggled into the country concealed inside oranges. Customs has seized 294 kilograms of heroin over the past 1 year alone, worth over 3 billion rupees. These drugs and further investigation have been handed over to the Police Anti-Narcotics Bureau. What has happened to the drugs that were found thus far?
There is a procedure when disposing these drugs. When court evidence is obtained, it is examined by the government analyst and then it is passed to the court. And it is the court that orders the disposal of these drugs. And the drugs are destroyed before the judge by officials of the Narcotics Bureau. It is the court that destroys these drugs or any other evidence, not the police. The police does not have that authority.
අධිකරණයක් විසින් තමයි විනාශ කරන්නේ. පොලිසිය විසින් කිසිම නඩු භාණ්ඩයක් විනාශ කරන්නේත් නැහැ. එහෙම කිරීමට පොලිසියට අයිතිය හෝ හැකියාවකුත් නැහැ. ඒක ඉතින් අධිකරණයේ අභිමතය මත තමයි තීරණය වෙන්නේ.
Meanwhile, leader of the Janata Vimukta Peramuna, Anura Kumara Dissanayake, questioned as to why authorities are hesitant in punishing those involved in the drug trade. He made this statement while addressing a seminar on the Our Vision Policy Manifesto in Ambalampura today. Large hauls of drugs are frequently seized at the harbour. Container loads of ethanol are seized, but no one is arrested. Was anyone punished?
දැන් අහුවෙනවා. හැබැයි ගේන කෙනා අහුවෙන්නේ. ඇයි?
The country's police has a good sense. The police has been able to solve all murders and crimes in the country that were controversial. There is a simple truth to this. All underhand dealings have been committed by the government. Sirasa was bombed twice but no one was captured. Theatre was attacked but no one was captured. This was all done by the government. 11 journalists including Lasanta Vikramatunga were murdered. Again, no suspects were found. It was committed by the government. Poddala Jayanta was kidnapped. Around 20 journalists including Upali Pennakons had their arms or legs broken. Sometimes both arms and legs were broken. And yet no suspect was found. Why? Because it was done by the government. What has happened to the government today? The only successful hub they have been able to create in Sri Lanka is a hub for drugs and ethanol. A demonstration was staged by the Women for Rights organization opposite the Fort Railway Station in line with International Women's Day.
The demonstrators who expressed their opposition against drugs signed a large banner which read, quote, "We reject the drugs, ethanol and casino alliance," unquote.
Even yesterday, we witnessed they took into custody drugs worth 360 million rupees. Today's economy is blanketed with illegal importation of drugs, ethanol, alcohol in the casinos. Through this, our male population as well as our children could get addicted to this. Women will be left completely destitute as a result of this.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa says that the government will not hesitate to take action against drugs. The president made this statement during the president's dialogue with the public via electronic media yesterday. It is the drug kingpins who should be arrested. We are not people who consume drugs, so I believe that those responsible should be arrested. Our prime objective is to capture those who are smuggling and peddling drugs. So we have notified the armed forces and the police to take all necessary measures on this matter. We will not hesitate to take action on this drug issue. We will not consider any statuses.
Residents from Battaramulla, Attanagalla, Bandaragama, Gaul, Devinuwara and Tissamarama posted questions at the president and leading ministers at temple trees. Newsfirst joined with the president's dialogue from the Hirana Bridge in Bandaragama.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, the state sector employees have an allegation to make. The salary that we receive is insufficient. So, Your Excellency, I would like to know what your thoughts on this issue are.
ආකල්පය මොකක්ද කියලා මේ සමස්ත සේවකයන් පිළිබඳව.
දැන් අපි මේකට කොමිසමක් පත් කරලා දිනවා.
We have appointed a commission to look into salary anomalies. Soon after we receive the report, it will be implemented through the following budget. This is the only government that has given some sort of benefit through every budget to all state sector employees.
යම් කිසි දීමනාවක් දීලා තියෙන්නේ අතට වැඩියෙන් ගෙනියන්න හැම රජයේ සේවකයෙක්.
President Rajapaksa also expressed his views on Sri Lanka and the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva.
A few powerful nations together with the UN Commissioner has presented a report on us. I believe this has been told before the public. They will take a decision. They will conduct a vote on us. But we will not accept it. We have rejected this report. They are just trying to see if they could sling mud at us and punish us internationally. There are a few non-governmental organizations from Sri Lanka involved here. And on the other hand, the opposition. The opposition knows that they cannot win in Sri Lanka. So they want to go to other countries and see if they could win. We will wait and see. There is no point in worrying because I certainly am not. Well, in exciting news for all of us Sri Lankans, Sri Lanka just claimed victory in the Asia Cup by winning the finals against Pakistan by 5 wickets just a short while ago. Now, winning the toss, Pakistan elected to bat first at the Sher Bangla Stadium. Now, slinger Lasith Malinga provided Sri Lanka with a perfect start, bagging 3 quick wickets. However, the Pakistan innings was salvaged by skipper Misbah al-Haq and Fawad Alam. Fawad Alam scored his maiden ODI century today and guided Pakistan to a competitive score of 260 for the loss of 5 wickets in their allotted 50 overs. Misbah al-Haq and Umar Akmal hammered half centuries. Lasith Malinga picked up all 5 Pakistani scalps. Now, Sri Lanka, who commenced their reply, got off to a steady start with an opening stand of 56 runs. Flamboyant opener Kusal Janit Pereira hammered a quick fire 42 runs before being undone by Said Ajmal. Kumar Sangakkara was trapped in front of the very next delivery. Lahiri Thirimana and Mahela Jayawardene.
There he goes again, but there's a fielder.
Lahiri Thirimana and Mahela Jayawardene steadied the Sri Lankan innings with a third wicket stand of 156 runs. Jayawardene managed to score 74 runs before being undone. However, a patient century by Thirimana guided Sri Lanka to victory.
That's 6. Wow, what a pickup shot from Mahela. And they'll get Mahela back. Cuts and cuts beautifully. What a shot from Mahela. Really, I mean... Oh well. This is a big moment.
He's excited. That's his third ODI 100.
Oh, he's gone right. Now that might run away to... He just gave... This game is still alive, even if it... He's called for a second here. The captain is gone. Well played by Angelo Matthews. He's the man they needed at the end. A lot of others set it up, but he's taken his side, Sri Lankans.
Brilliant work. It's been a good team performance.
Well, on behalf of all of us here at Newsfirst, we wish the Sri Lanka cricket team for the impressive performance in Bangladesh and winning the finals at the Asia Cup. Now, moving back to local news, permanent representative of Sri Lanka to the UN in Geneva, Ambassador Ravinatha Ariyasinghe says that there is no objective or rational reason to justify the call for a third successive resolution on Sri Lanka at the 25th regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council. Ambassador Ariyasinghe made this observation in an intervention made at the commencement of the first informal meeting called by the sponsors of the draft resolution on Sri Lanka.
Representatives of the USA, UK, Mauritius, Montenegro and Macedonia, who have co-sponsored the resolution on Sri Lanka, were present at the informal meeting.
We are consistent with our stand, which we have consistently taken at the United Nations Human Rights Committee. Our purpose is to ensure that commitments given are fully implemented. Commitments to ensure that the findings of the Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission and recommendation made by Navi Pillay have to be fully implemented. So that's why I've told you that we are sponsoring the motion.
Ambassador Ravinatha Arya Singha, who attended the informal session, had noted that the intention of presenting yet another resolution on Sri Lanka in the Council was made known by the US to the government of Sri Lanka in January this year, long before the High Commissioner's report was available, thus making clear that the process and the intent to do so were led by political imperatives, rather than an objective assessment of the situation on the ground. The permanent representative of Sri Lanka to the UN in Geneva had noted that the obsession shown by some in their call for action on Sri Lanka simply brings out their own sinister motives in relentlessly targeting Sri Lanka, mainly to appease pro-LTTE Tamil constituencies for collateral electoral political gain. Rather than help Sri Lanka, it clearly hinders the reconciliation process currently underway. During the intervention, the ambassador also reiterated that the draft resolution is an unjustified endeavour to vest the office of the High Commissioner with an investigative mandate as well as a mandate to monitor and assess. He added that Sri Lanka rejects such disingenuous efforts on the part of the proponents of the resolution to bypass the method of engagement of the Council, which could not only set a bad precedent but also have wider relevance to all member and observer states of the Council. Ambassador Arya Singha has also noted that the draft resolution violates the constitutional provisions of Sri Lanka, is highly intrusive in nature and is in breach of sovereignty of the Sri Lankan people and territorial integrity of Sri Lanka. Therefore, in being intrusive, politicized and in clear contravention of accepted principles of conduct in the Council, the resolution sets a bad precedent and can in the medium to long term have an adverse impact on all developing countries in the Council.
Well, up next is the newspaper cartoon of the day. A group of women staged a demonstration today against the actions of the United States of America and the international community.
The protesters called on international forces led by USA to stop the continued targeting of Sri Lanka at the UNHRC in Geneva. The protest, which was organized by the mother and daughter of Lanka, which is affiliated to the National Freedom Front, marched up to the American Embassy in Colombo.
We
will not allow the hard-won peace in our country to be reversed. We will not allow Western contractors to run this country.
The first phase of the outer circular highway from Kottao to Kaduvela was declared open by President Mahinda Rajapaksa today. The 11-kilometer Kottao-Kaduvela section of the outer circular highway was constructed at a cost of 27 billion rupees with financial assistance from Japan. This highway provides an orbital beltway to bypass the city of Colombo and reduce traffic congestion in the western province and encourage the development of highly populated urban areas in the western province. At Kottao-Kumbura, the outer circular highway will be connected to the Southern Expressway and also to the A4 road known as High Level Road. Incidentally, it was President Mahinda Rajapaksa who drove the first vehicle on the newly opened section of the highway. The 8th stage of Super Fighter kicked off in Bandaravilla Municipal Council grounds, with the main highlight of today's program being the participation of indigenous youth in the area.
Super Fighter.
Super Fighter, a sports reality TV program that promises a novel experience for the Sri Lankan television audience, is a joint initiative of the MTV and MBC Media Network and MAS Holdings. The main aim of the 8th phase of Super Fighter is to select talented boxers from the Badulla and Nuwara districts. Over 400 aspiring boxers took part in today's program.
We are very glad that you all are granting us the strength and assistance to pave the way to create an athlete who will hopefully participate and win in the 2020 Olympics.
A training camp will be held tomorrow parallel to the trials for aspiring boxers to participate in the program. A training camp was also held in order to train athletes with regard to the basics of boxing. The training camp was held under 4 weight categories with the use of a ring constructed to international standards.
Super Fighter.
Former President of Sri Lanka Chandrika Kumaratunga Bandaranaike, attending a function in Horogolla, expressed these views.
Chandrika Kumaratunga has moved away from politics. I am no longer a politician. However, I am an activist who fights for the development of the country.
At a meeting held today, United National Party parliamentarian Sajid Premadasa charged that banana farmers in the Walava zone are currently facing many difficulties. The meeting, which was presided by MP Sajid Premadasa, was held in the Barava Kumbuka area today. If you take a look at the Walava zone in the Hambantoro district, it is famous for banana plantations. But what has happened to its farmers today? These farmers have been driven into despair because they cannot get a good price for their produce. The banana farmers are helpless. Today the miracle of the country is the drug trade. But the banana farmers in the Walava zone have no market. Colombo district candidate of the Democratic Party Susil Kindalpitiya took part in a public rally in Maligawatha area today. This government has failed to bring down milk powder for your children. However, they are capable of bringing down over 260 kilograms of drugs. Who imports containers of ethanol? We challenge them to reveal who imports them. It is being done by parliamentarians and ministers. They distribute it among our elders. When they drink it, they don't ask for jobs or homes. They don't ask for an education for their children. They stay silent as if they have been anesthetized. The government gains massively by importing ethanol. Meanwhile, Kindalpitiya also took part in a door-to-door campaign in the Maligawatha area to raise public awareness. The National Tourist Drivers Association submitted a letter to the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission today, expressing their opposition against the human rights allegations levelled at Sri Lanka. Members of the association arrived in a motorcade to present their letter to the Human Rights Commission. Western Provincial Council candidate Attorney-at-Law Susara Dinal also took part in the motor rally that commenced from the Naikanda area in Katunayaka. It has been several years since the end of the war. As a government, we have been able to bring about systematic development while taking steps to achieve reconciliation. Some nations are using this as an opportunity to win the electoral votes of minorities who have migrated to their countries. As Sri Lankans, we should all unite and say that this should stop. Let us solve our own problems. United National Party Colombo District candidate S.M. Marikar attended a public rally held in the Demotogore area last evening. If I get elected to the Provincial Council, I would commit myself to one thing, that is to improve the standard of education. The biggest companies in the country are established in and around Central Colombo. However, most people are unemployed in Central Colombo. They survive by allowing people to stay in their homes. I want to put a stop to this. I will do this by providing training for unemployed youth. I will commence a campaign calling on all major companies to employ 10% of our youth. If your children weren't given the opportunity to study, or if a path was not created for the youth to gain employment, then don't allow me or any other politicians to to come and ask for your vote. Moving on to other local news, a father and a son died after being run over by a train in the Omante area along the Northern Railway line. The victims were residents from the Olamadu area.
The railway control room stated that the accident occurred at around 7:50 this morning close to the Omante Pulyankulama railway station. They added that the victims, who were travelling on a motorbike, collided with an express intercity train plying from Pale to Fort close to the railway line. Upon further inquiry, the police stated that the father was pushing his motorbike along the railway line with his son when the accident occurred. The police stated that the father and son succumbed to their injuries upon admission to the Vavuniya General Hospital. The child was reported to be only 4 years old. Meanwhile, an individual died in a motor accident in the Nabadagahawatte area in Galevala. The police stated that the accident took place when the victim attempted to give away for another motor vehicle to take over. This action resulted in the victim's demise when his motorbike collided with a telephone post. The victim was a 17-year-old youth. A person died and another suffered injuries in another motor accident which took place along the Nindavur main road last night. The accident occurred when a lorry travelling from Kulyapitiya to Akare Patu lost control and veered off the road. The deceased was the lorry driver's assistant.
Tonight, two reports were filed by Dinesh Adhikari and Vijay Singh Valikanda from Polgahavela and Kurunegala respectively.
Around 5:30 this morning, an accident occurred when a motorbike collided with a van on the Colombo Candy Road in the Vevaldeni area. Two individuals travelling on the motorbike sustained severe injuries and were admitted to the Vathupitiwala hospital.
Newsfirst, you reporter වෙනුවෙන් මම දිනේෂ් අධිකාරී පොල්ගහල සිට.
අද උදෑසන 4:45ට පමණ
An accident occurred on the Kurunegala Nigambu Road in the Malkaduava area at around 4:45 this morning. The accident was a result of a collision between a car plying from Kurunegala to Katnaika and a lorry plying from Narammala to Kurunegala. Two individuals travelling in the car sustained injuries and were admitted to the Kurunegala hospital.
කුරුණෑගල රෝහලට ඇතුළත් කරා. මම Newsfirst you reporter Vijay Singh Valikanda කුරුණෑගල.
Let's now take a look at Newsfirst.
Our correspondents state that 1,500 acres of paddy land are in danger of being destroyed due to inadequate rainfall in the Munaragala region. Farmers point out that this climatic condition signals a warning sign to paddy lands in areas of Athimale, Madulla, Thanamalvila, Munaragala, Sevenagal and Khataragama catered in the Munaragala district. Other crops other than paddy has also been affected due to the dry weather conditions.
වතුර හරවන්න දීකුත් නැහැ මේ පැත්තේ ගඟක් තියෙනවා වාරි ජලය තමයි ගන්නෙ ගඟේ වතුරත් නැහැ
අපිට වෙන විකල්ප නැහැ ජීවත් වෙන්න අපි ගොවිතැන් කරලා පමණයි ජීවත් වෙන්නේ
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has warned Washington against hasty and reckless steps over the crisis in Ukraine that could harm the US-Russia relations. In a telephone call initiated by the American side, Lavrov has told the US Secretary of State John Kerry that any sanctions against Russia would inevitably hit the United States like a boomerang. Meanwhile, tensions run high in the crisis-hit Crimean region. The Newsfirst International Desk reports.
Armed men, thought to be Russians, drove a truck into a Ukrainian missile defense post in the Crimean region and took it over without a shot being fired. Initial reports said the truck had smashed through the gates of the base in the port city of Sevastopol and that it was being stormed. A Ukrainian military official, Vladislav Sleznov, said by telephone that the armed men took over the base without any shooting and that no one was hurt.
Они проникли с двух сторон. Территория части большая. Одна.
They intruded from both sides. The territory of the army base is big. One truck came from the side of the checkpoint and another one came from the munitions gate. Groups of people, from 35 to 60 people, have intruded by breaking these gates and also over the fence. They warned us they could use firearms. We stopped them with some special means and they have now surrounded the command post and they also took control of the duty office building.
Соответственно, с той стороны захвачено здание.
Russian forces have taken over some military installations and other buildings on the peninsula, where Russia's Black Sea Fleet has a base, but both sides have held their fire. With tensions running high in Crimea, Ukraine's 24th Mechanized Brigade, also known as the Iron Brigade, prepared for possible combat against Russian troops.
Бригада проводиться повну бойову готовність. На даний момент ви бачите перший батальйон тактична група.
The brigade is in the process of making itself combat ready. At the moment, the first group is ready. The brigade is 100% staffed with officers and soldiers. They all are contractors. Machines are checked and loaded with ammunition, and the personnel are working on their combat training. The brigade staff are ready to conduct missions.
Готові до виконання завдань, що пов'язані з збереженням цілісності та суверенітету.
The brigade, with its base in West Ukraine's Yavorov, near the city of Lviv, has been training every day in case they are called upon to fight. Ukraine's armed forces are outnumbered by Russia's. In Crimea, most of Ukraine's armed forces are restricted to their bases while surrounded by Russian troops. Despite the tension, there has not been any blood spilled in Crimea. Meanwhile, 2 journalists were attacked and beaten during the standoff, and it has also been reported that the Associated Press crew had their equipment seized in the Crimean capital.
We're taking a look at one more local story. Minister of Fisheries Dr. Rajendra Sinaratne expressed these views with regard to candidates contesting for the upcoming provincial council polls. He expressed these views during a meeting held in Beirut today.
Make correct decisions. Don't elect wrong people and then berate them. You elect politicians who appear frequently in newspaper cartoons. You elect them with your vote. It is true that we give nominations, but sometimes our leaders have to do it. That is why we give you the list to root out the bad and send the cream of the crop. If you elect bad people, then you will suffer the consequences. The party leaders or the party seniors will not suffer.
And with that, we wrap up today's edition of Weekend Primetime News. As always, it's a pleasure having you with us. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Shahan Jurangpati. Good night and take care.
Hotline 0114-896-896. www.newsfirst.lk. Feedback at newsfirst.lk.